paper on immigration and refugee protection has now been gazetted for public comment. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi says the new paper proposes that South Africa reconsider its status of the 1951 United Nations Refugee Convention. For some reaction and some analysis on this, we're joined by governance expert Dr. Sam Koma. Dr. Koma, thank you for making time for us this afternoon. So this white paper on citizenship, immigration and refugee protection is meant to provide a framework to guide the granting of residency and citizenship to foreign nationals. Do you think it goes far enough in dealing with what really has become an immigration crisis in the country?
Yes, thanks, Clement, for the opportunity. This is a welcome and progressive development that is taking place in the country. We need to appreciate the leadership that the Minister of Home Affairs has provided in addressing this problem that has been raised in different platforms and also by communities around security concerns and also the challenges of accessing basic services which South Africans are entitled to in terms of your access to basic services such as health, education, welfare, and in most instances, employment opportunities. So the minister is saying, let me not undertake a piecemeal approach in addressing these issues of citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection. Let me undertake a comprehensive overhaul of the system, because he acknowledges that there are gaps in the law that governs these particular aspects. There are weak systems, and also this has led to abuse and corruption in the system, and also those who are seeking, for example, asylum status, and also issues of citizenship. So this white paper is going to afford the minister to then, at the later stage, introduce fundamental legislative reform through reviewing the existing laws and repealing some of these laws where applicable and introducing new laws or regulations as part of addressing these issues. Bearing in mind that immigration is a global phenomenon, no country is immune from this phenomenon, and also as a country, we are also one of the most advanced economies in the SADC region and also in the continent as a whole. So naturally, there will be movement of people coming into the country, others seeking asylum, others seeking work or employment opportunities. But what the people are saying on the ground is that let's have foreign nationals properly documented, and also let's tighten this issue of porous borders that we have in the country.
Yeah.
So that is the background to this white paper.
Yeah, and of course we've seen things like the Border Management Authority being established to, in part, deal with the issue around security at our borders. But what policy has government been following? I mean, when it comes to granting refugee statuses or citizenship, what is it that hasn't worked in the past and how we've been dealing with this issue of immigration?
Yes, so what the minister is saying is that due to inexperience, he admits to that, due to inexperience on the part of officials responsible to deal with issues of the applications of asylum seekers, for example, and also citizenship, there's then been an abuse and also people taking advantage of the system. So we have the South African Citizenship Act. We also have the Refugees Act. So you have asylum seekers who come into the country and claim to seek asylum. But in the process, they then start looking for work or business opportunities. That's the reason you have a lot of these individuals owning spaza shops in most of the townships and other communities. But later, while they are awaiting their applications to be processed and their appeal to be concluded, they then take the route of seeking citizenship through claiming to meet the requirements for naturalization. So he's saying these are the gaps we have in our system, and also there has been abuse and this corruption taking place. But going forward, through this white paper, I intend to then deal with these fundamental systemic problems that are facing his ministry, but also posing a security risk to the country as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I suppose part of the reason for this white paper is also to ensure the protection and the protection of refugees, and asylum seekers in the country. What have been their experiences on the ground? Because our systems have also not been the best, right? There have also been corruption that's been picked in the system. So sometimes when you've got genuine asylum seekers, people that are seeking refugee, they end up not having the right papers, because when they go through the system, that in itself is complicated, and sometimes there's just lots of corruption hoops to get through.
Yeah. Yes, I like the point you're saying, Clement. They are genuine asylum seekers, but in the majority of cases, some they are not. But we have reception centers for refugees located in parts of Gauteng and also Cape Town. And now there is an issue to say, why not relocate these refugee reception centers where there are borders, so that the process of this administration in terms of applications, documentation, appeals can be promptly addressed in the most effective and also efficient manner, so that within a period of 30 or 60 days, they have their results in terms of their applications. They know that now they are here legally. They can start earning a living in terms of seeking work opportunities or business opportunities. So there is acknowledgement to say, to some extent, the structures that we have needs to be reviewed and also addressed with a view to cater for this genuine asylum seekers. So we have the UN conventions on asylum seekers. It provides for the first country rule. In simple terms, it says that an asylum seeker who seeks asylum or refugee status cannot traverse 5 or 6 countries that are recognized as safe countries according to the UN, land in South Africa. And when he lands in South Africa, he says, I want to apply for asylum status and also to get the refugee status. So this is what the minister was addressing during the media briefing, to say they are violating the very same UN convention. But because we have our laws that are very accommodative, they then start taking legal action to address this particular element. But the convention is clear-cut around that. Yes.
Sorry, Dr. Koma. I wanted to say, speaking of the United Nations Conventions on Asylum Seekers, as you say, that's part of what the minister was addressing, because government also needs to comply with international agreements, right, and protocols on how to deal with the issue of immigration. But then the minister today was announcing that there's a consideration that South Africa perhaps look at their compliance with the United Nations conventions, either review that or withdraw from the conventions because of some of those imperfections, perhaps in the convention. What would that mean for South Africa?
Yeah, my sense is that I don't think that would be the wise move. The conventions are very clear-cut because they also grant a right to South Africa to refuse granting asylum status or refugee status to these applicants who have contravened or violated the very same principle of the first country rule of, as I said, you have passed through a safe country, you land in South Africa, you now want to seek application for asylum in the context of South Africa. So I think what needs to happen is more engagement between South Africa and also the UN through, of course, the different avenues that have been put in place to address some of these discrepancies or challenges that these member states, because we are party to this, we are signatory to this, but our socio-economic context may no longer allow us to, in a more responsible way, cater for some of these issues that arises as part of granting refugee status to some of these applicants. But I think what needs to happen also is to review our own domestic laws that are informed by the UN conventions around issues of refugees, and other important categories.
Yeah. The minister also said that this paper proposes that South Africa rebuke the Citizenship Act. What would that mean?
Oh, yeah. So we remember there are grounds for citizenship in terms of the South African Citizenship Act. 1, by birth; 2, by descent; 3, naturalization. So he may have, through their own analysis of the legislation, realized that maybe it's high time they review the legislation. As I said earlier, there are gaps and also there is abuse. You have those who take the Refugees Act route and later they want to claim naturalization through using the very same piece of legislation. So I think it's part of this overhaul of the legislative reform they want to bring into the space. But ultimately, you will still have a law that regulates acquisition of citizenship, either by birth, descent, or naturalization.
All right. Dr. Sam Koma, a governance expert, always appreciate your time. Thank you.